Uno. How to play. The object of the game is to be the first player to get rid of all the cards in your hand. Pick a dealer who shuffles the deck and deals 7 cards face down to each player. Players look at their own cards but keep them hidden from others. The dealer places the remaining deck face down on the table as a draw deck and flips over the top card to start a discard pile. If this card is an action or wild card, then ignore it and flip over another card until you get a non-action or non-wild card. The player to the left of the dealer goes first, then play initially proceeds clockwise. On your turn, you may play 1 card from your hand to the discard pile if you want. You can only play a card if it matches at least one attribute of the top card on the discard pile, its color, number, or symbol. If you cannot make a play or choose not to, then you must draw the top card of the deck and add it to your hand. If the drawn card, and only that card, is a playable card, then you are allowed to play it if you want. If there are no cards in the draw deck, then shuffle all but the top card of the discard pile into a new draw deck. After you play or draw, your turn ends and the next player goes. The moment you only have 1 card in your hand, you must yell Uno to alert the other players you are about to win. However, if someone beats you to it and calls Uno before the next player takes their turn, then you must draw 2 penalty cards. There are special action cards and wild cards you can play. When you do, this is what happens. Draw 2. The next player must draw 2 cards and loses their turn. Skip. The next player loses their turn. Reverse. Change the direction of play so it goes in the opposite direction. Wild. This card can match to any card in the discard pile. After playing a wild, you get to pick the color that continues play. Wild shuffle hands. This card is a wild and can be played on anything. Once played, collect every card from all the players' hands and shuffle them together. Starting with the player to your left, deal out all the cards to all the players. Players may end up with more or fewer cards than what they started with. Play continues in the current direction of play with you picking the color. Wild Draw 4. This card is a wild and can be played on anything. However, you are only allowed to play this card if you do not have any other cards in your hand with the same color as the top card in the discard. Once played, the next player may either draw 4 cards and lose their turn, or they may challenge. If you challenge a wild draw 4, then the player who played it must reveal their hand. If they do not have the color in their hand that matches the discard pile they played to, then you must draw 6 cards and lose your turn. If they do have the color, then they must draw 4 cards instead, and it is your turn. Regardless of the outcome of the challenge, that player picks the color that continues play. Wild Customizable. Before the game begins, remove these 3 cards and write with a pencil on them your own rule that must be followed when played. This card is a wild that may be played on any other card, and you get to pick the color that continues play. Between games, you may erase and change the cards. The first player to get rid of all the cards in their hand wins. There is an optional victory method you can play, which is for points. At the end of each hand, the player who went out scores points for each card remaining in their opponent's hands. All number cards are worth their face value. Skip, reverse, and draw 2 are each worth 20 points. Wild cards are worth 50 points each. The first player to 500 or more points wins.